Welcome to the CEO Launch Podcast.
We are a dynamic mother-daughter duo bringing you personality, insights, and practical advice from two different generations of entrepreneurship.
We aren't just mother and daughter. We are also best friends and business partners.
I've watched my mom help thousands of entrepreneurs start the businesses of their dreams, including me. And now it's your turn.
Hello to the CEO Launch family. Welcome to episode 20. In last week's episode, we talked about how you can't sweat the small stuff. But today we have a new episode for you. And today we're going to be talking about building your dream team. Now, I know as entrepreneurs, when you get started in your business, especially those of you who are solopreneurs, you might be thinking, team, I'm doing this by myself. This is my own business. I don't have any partners. I don't have anybody that owns this business. It's all on me. So if that's you, this episode is for you. Also, if you're the person that says, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself, this episode is for you. So before we get started in our little talk time, Kenya has a story for us today.
So to tell this story, I need to kind of frame as I usually do. But surprisingly, I won't be as dramatic as I usually am when I frame my stories. This story starts about my junior year of college. No, maybe it was my junior or senior year. I can't remember what semester this was for. But I was going through a really deep depression in my junior and senior year of college. And I was having a hard time with school. So a lot of people don't know this, but I had a really hard time. And there were points in time where we just weren't sure that we was going to get to that finish line. Honey, let me tell you. And so for one particular part of my depression, I had the hardest time concentrating. I couldn't concentrate on a lot of things. Like I had a lot of ideas, but I wasn't able to fully formulate them in the way that I used to formulate them. And my housemates knew that. And the people that I lived with in college, they knew that I was having a hard time. They knew that school was particularly difficult and that we were nearing the finish line. And this was something that I needed to finish up and complete. And so I needed to write this 20-page paper for one of my sociology classes. And no, this is not going to be, I paid somebody to write the paper and that's how dream work and teamwork happened. That's not the story.
Woo!
When I pitched this story, my mom was worried. She was very worried. And so in this particular case, it wasn't about that. It was that my housemates knew the situation that I was in. They knew the things that I was going through and how everything was making me feel and how hard things were for me. And so we collaborated to write this paper. And so I had a lot of the ideas, I had the framework, but I wasn't in the headspace to, like I said, kind of formulate it in this academic phrasing. So we had whiteboards, we had papers everywhere. They were reading the articles with me. Everybody was kind of interpreting different pieces of it. And we wrote this 20-page paper. And I kid you not, I got an A on the paper and was able to finish that class up with, I think, an A or maybe a B. I might have got a B. It went from like a IF to a B. So that was an improvement. But I did really well. And I was only able to do that because I partnered with other people. And I was very aware of what my strengths were in that moment versus trying to like power through it and not do it well. And so, I could have easily got a D or a C on the paper if I did it by myself. But because I came together with people that had the same vision and goal in mind as me, we were able to get it done.
And I think one of the things that I hear when I hear that story is you had to get vulnerable. Like you had to accept that you weren't able to do it yourself. It was something that you needed help with. And I think a lot of times with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, independent contractors, however you want to refer to yourselves, a lot of times we don't want to reach out to other people because reaching out for help, raising your hand to say that I don't know how to do this shows a sign of weakness when in fact it's a sign of strength.
It is.
To be able to reach out to other people. So, Kenya, thank you for being vulnerable today and sharing that part of your story, because, again, that's a part of a story that a lot of people won't share. We talk about how people are not saying that, hey, I lost today. And it's not a whole lot of people raising their hands to say, hey, I was depressed. And not depressed as in sad, like she was depressed for a very long time and anxiety and all of that stuff. I just think about, like, let's bring it to business. And so for me, being in business now for 19 years, I think about, I'm the only owner of my business. I don't have any technical business partners. I have people who I've partnered with, but I'm the only owner in my business. And so when I think about, from a business standpoint, I think about all of the responsibility that falls on me as a business owner. And one of the things that I'm grateful that I got really good at from the start, and I want to say sports has something to do with this, is recognizing the things that I did well and understanding that those things that I didn't do well, I needed to get people on my team to do those things.
I definitely agree. And I think that for some people, that initial awareness that you don't do everything well and that you are not the perfect person can be scary. Like, it can be a scary moment, especially for our very high achieving people who have been super ambitious their entire life, leader of the group project, that you are not going to be great at everything. And I also think for other people, it's not necessarily not being good at it, but it's not having control of it that scares the bejesus out of them. It's like, oh my gosh, I cannot control this entire situation. How am I supposed to do that? And that gets really scary. It gets really scary. But we got to think about, why do you want to control everything? That's the real question.
Right. And yeah, so because when you think about that, controlling everything means that everything falls on you. Why do you want that? Why not share the burden of that? To have somebody else lift this heavy thing along with you is so much better, so much easier. And then I, kind of think about it like, if I'm carrying something heavy out of the door, if you're carrying it with me, I have you to talk to, and we can make it easier. So yeah, I think that as business owners, we have to think about who are some of the people that we need to partner with as we are building our dream team. So I want to share an example or analogy that I use a lot when I'm speaking and when I'm talking to people about building their team. I call it my squad in my talks. But when you're building your squad, I tell people to think back to the days of elementary school. And those, especially people who are in my age group, we remember being in elementary school and we had PE, and the PE coach would rotate like who would be the team captains today. And whoever was the team captain, that person was the person that they were able to pick whoever was on their team. So you might be playing kickball or dodgeball or something else, usually kickball or dodgeball when I was in school. But so if you're playing kickball or dodgeball and you are the captain of the team, you get to pick. You are instinctively going to pick the strong kids, the fast kids, the athletic kids, because you want to win. And sometimes that might mean that you don't pick your friends, that you don't pick your relatives. You are going to pick the people who are going to help you win. And you have to use that same concept when you're picking people for your team, your dream team, your advisory team in your business, right? You want to find the people who are going to help you win. I know your cousin do taxes, but she's not a tax accountant. So you want to pick a tax accountant that's going to help you win. I know your brother is a paralegal, but he's not an attorney. And so you want to make sure that you add somebody to your team who can win. I could go on and on and on. So again, you want to think about that as you're building your team. What do you think, Kenya?
I think that one thing that people forget to think about when it comes to teamwork and partnership is that it's not just the physical work of it. It's also the ideas and the thought partnership that you get from it. A lot of times your idea is really good, but it's not necessarily the best idea.
Or it could just be missing one little thing. The partner might see that one little thing that you didn't think of. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, to make that big difference. And so I think people really shut themselves off when they aren't open to hearing other people's ideas or seeing other people's perspectives, because for the most part, you're not doing business to sell to yourself. And you likely might not even be doing business with people that think like you. So you need people to kind of come in with different viewpoints and different perspectives so that you can have a realistic view of what your market might look like. And people see things that you may not have seen. They notice things that you may not have noticed, that you, in your design, it makes perfect sense to you, but to other people, it's like, what is this? Why are we doing this? I don't get it. And you just thought it was the most genius thing ever. Having other people on your team make sure that your messaging is clear to your actual audience.
Or to a broader audience. So you might be speaking to people like you, right? So one of the things that I have to realize, I have lots of really great friends, right? And I know which of my friends to go to for certain things. And it's not that they're going to just tell me what I want to hear, because I don't even have any friends like that. But I understand that when I'm looking for a certain perspective, that I need to ask certain friends, what do you think about this? And I know that I'm going to get a different response. I could ask two friends the same question, and if they're totally different friends, which all of my friends seem to be, I'll get two different responses. And so they may help me to, like you said, see a perspective that I hadn't even considered. That's one of the things that I love about working with my graphic designer, Keisha, because she comes into it with a different mindset than I as an accountant. And her perspective is she always brings something to the table that I didn't think about. So teamwork is a great form, like you said, a great form of thought leadership, and those fresh eyes really do make a difference. So you got anything else before we go for our takeaways?
No, I think we made some good points, if I can say that.
Yeah, I think you can say that. It's your podcast.
Okay. Then yeah, I think we're doing a great job right now. So
see what happens when you have a partner? One of the things that I wanted to share, having been in business for 19 years, and not only having my business for 19 years, that means that I've worked with hundreds, likely thousands of business owners over those 19 years, is that most businesses last longer when they have established partnerships. And again, these aren't necessarily people who own your business with you, but these are people who have a vested interest in the success of your business.
Right. And I mean, that's statistics. That's not just us talking about your experience statistically. When we look at startups, most startups last longer when it's two people in the actual startup that can bring those ideas. And it's not just ideas that you bring a different audience with you.
And resources.
Yeah, you bring resources, you bring audience, you bring network, you bring a lot more things.
And skills. But you have to be open-minded to be a partner. That's the second takeaway. So you have to be open-minded to partner with other people, and you also have to be open-minded to accept someone else to be your partner. So if you're one of those kind of people who think you're always right or nobody else has any good ideas but you,
that's not how it works. You have to recognize that things exist outside of your realm, and that's okay. And again, back to our initial question, what is it that makes you want to control everything? You don't have to control everything, and it's okay. Don't be so closed off to what people are saying, because you then close yourself off to a number of opportunities, which isn't fair to you. It's not fair to your business.
Yeah. And so the last takeaway that we have for today is you have to know your strengths and weaknesses to create a compatible partner. So I think most of you know that I teach at a music college. And one of the things that I teach my students when we talk about the partnership section, I always tell them to make sure that you partner with people who bring something to the table that you don't have. And they bring something to the table that you don't have and that you need. And that's when you know that you're in a compatible partnership. So many of the students that I teach, some of them are musicians, some of them are sound engineers, some of them are rappers and singers. And I always talk about, if you're going to partner with somebody who has a set of skills that you don't have. So that makes the partnership work even better.
I definitely agree. I think that it takes a lot of self-awareness to be in a partnership. It's like any other relationship. You can't successfully be in a relationship with another person when you aren't aware of what you bring to the table and how you bring those things to the table.
And what they bring to the table.
Yeah, and what they bring to the table. So definitely take some time to, assess yourself and understand like where you're coming from. Because even with us, like when we started the CEO launch, I know we look like we might have the similar cadence when we say things, but you and I are vastly different people. Not vastly.
No, we are. We are very different. We have a lot of things in common. Like you said, we look alike. We have the same Southern accents and we say certain words the same. But yes, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to partner with you, is because the differences that you bring were things that I don't have. And so I feel like the differences that we have in this partnership is a great balance. It's a great mix. And so even as we are divvying out tasks, it is very clear that, I do these things and Kenya does these things. And we've never had the conversation of, well, I got to do that, because it's very clear that we've already know, like, you're doing that because that's what you're good at.
Yeah, we didn't have to assign nothing. It was just kind of like, well, I'm going to do this and you can do that. And that's just how it's going to be. And very naturally just kind of took over certain pieces of it. And I think that is, outside of us being mother and daughter and knowing each other, that speaks to the level of understanding that we have about each other and the open-mindedness that we come into this with. It's not your podcast, it's not mine. It's about us creating this space and having a conversation so that we can partner and grow and develop something that can be very meaningful.
Yeah. So I think that was a great close. We had fun today and we know that you did too. So thank you for being here with us today. Join us next week. We're going to talk about some of those distractions that come as you are building. And as always, if you have not already joined the Efficient CEO movement on Facebook, please join us. We will continue the conversation, give you thought-provoking prompts on a daily basis, and just an opportunity to connect with other like-minded entrepreneurs.
And follow us on social media at The CEO Launch.
See you next week.
And don't forget to take off.
This is a Clear Word production.